The Siege of Marawi, or the Battle of Marawi, was a 5-month-long armed conflict between Philippine government security forces against militant groups affiliated with the Islamic State, or IS.
It's time for the Parkland Filipino Hour with your host, Kuya Gilbert Del Rosario. The Parkland Filipino Hour is aired every first Sunday of the month over the Rock 98.5 radio station in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Here again is your host, Kuya Gilbert Del Rosario.
The clash started on the 23rd of May 2017 in the city of Marawi, the capital of Lanao del Sur, and considered as an Islam city with a population around 200,000. This battle has been known as the longest urban battle in the modern history of the Philippines. According to reports from the Philippine government, the fight began when intelligence reports reached the Philippine military that S01EP10, leader of the IS-affiliated Abu Sayyaf group, was spotted in the city and said to be having secret meetings with another militant group, the Maute group, an armed group that pledged allegiance to the Islamic State and which is believed to be responsible for the 2016 Davao City bombing, according to military spokesmen. A combined effort between the army and the police was formed in an attempt to capture the said Abu Sayyaf leader. A deadly firefight erupted when Hapilon's forces opened fire on the combined army and police teams. So Hapilon called on for reinforcements and help came from the Maute group. The Maute group, in retaliation, attacked Camp Ranao in Marawi City and occupied several buildings in the city, including Marawi City Hall, Mindanao State University, and a nearby hospital and the city jail. They also occupied the main street and set fire the St. Mary's Cathedral. Not only that, but also set ablaze the Ninoy Aquino School and Dansalan College, which was run by the United Church of Christ in the Philippines. The militants also took a priest and several churchgoers hostage in this attack. The armed forces of the Philippines stated that some of the terrorists that was part of the group were foreigners who had been in the country for a long time, and they were here to fight with the Maute group in Marawi in the quest to raise up an ISIL flag or an ISIS flag at the Lanao del Sur provincial capital and declare a wilayat or a state of Islamic authority or rule over the provincial territory in Lanao del Sur. And on the 17th of October 2017, the day after the deaths of militant leaders Omar Maute and Isnilon Hapilon, the then President Duterte declared that Marawi was finally liberated from threat from the terrorist group. And on the 23rd of October 2017, Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana announced that after a 5-month campaign to seize the city back from the militant groups, the siege was finally over, and the fight against the terrorist groups in Marawi had finally ended. Now, the question is, why did the Battle of Marawi took that long and is now recognized as the country's largest and longest battle since World War II? Well, the Battle of Marawi was a consequence of the Philippines not taking seriously or a struggle that took so long against terrorism, even though it was very known that the Abu Sayyaf was known to be linked with the Al-Qaeda, who were responsible for the many attacks in the US, and that includes the September 2001 bombing of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York. Now, it was known the Maute group has ties with the Abu Sayyaf and that the city of Marawi is considered as the group's main focus of operations. The Maute group had established a stronghold in Lanao del Sur since February of 2016 and has claimed responsibility for the 2016 Davao City bombing and two attacks in the municipality of Butig, still in Lanao del Sur, which is a town located just south of Marawi, and it was still in the year 2016. Since the militants group founding in 2013, the Philippine government has downplayed the threat of ISIS in the Philippines. Following the clash between the Maute group and the Philippine Army in the town of Butig last February of 2016, the then president around that time, who was President Benigno Aquino III, discounted the possibility of the Islamic State's presence in the country. He said that those behind the attack were just mercenaries wanting to be recognized by the Middle East-based terror group. The Abu Sayyaf group, blamed for deadly bombings and kidnappings in the past, had also pledged allegiance to the Islamic State movement in the summer of 2014. One of its leaders, Isnilon Hapilon, was listed as among the world's most wanted terrorists by the U.S. State Department with a reward of up to $5 million for his capture. Following the abduction and subsequent beheading of Canadian businessman John Ridsdale in April of 2016, Aquino disclosed that he had received death threats from the jihadist group, and that the Abu Sayyaf also plotted to kidnap his sister Chris Aquino and even Manny Pacquiao. President Aquino at that time also identifies the group of Hapilon, who was also behind attempts to convert and recruit inmates from the New Bilibid prison to join their cause and embark on a bombing campaign in Metro Manila, which he said was part of their effort to gain favor with the ISIS. Now, in November 2016, the newly elected president, that is President Rodrigo Duterte, confirmed the Maute group's affiliation with the Islamic State, and President Duterte even revealed that the siege of Marawi City was also related to narco-terrorism. But the Philippine military maintained that the ISIS had not established links with the militant groups in the Philippines. Amidst continuous and fierce fightings in the town of Butig, on the 30th of November 2016, President Duterte, in a command briefing in Lanao del Sur, issued a fair warning to the Maute group, where he said, "I do not want a fight with you. I do not want us to kill each other. But please, do not force my hand. I cannot be forever traveling here every month just to talk. And when I turn around, there's killing again. I do not want to mention anything, but please do not force my hand into it." And on the 2nd of December 2016, as the Philippine military regained control of the town of Butig, the retreating Maute fighters reportedly left a note threatening to behead President Duterte and the military. And on the 12th of December 2016, President Duterte, who was in a dinner organized by the Wallace Business Forum, he gave out a speech, again warning and daring the Maute group to go ahead and attack Marawi, because if you do, the Philippine Army will be ready for you. And from April to May of 2017, the battle between the Abu Sayyaf and the Philippine security forces in Bohol ensued and resulted in the deaths of 3 soldiers, a policeman, while 10 militants were eliminated. The Armed Forces of the Philippines stated that the fighting in Marawi was due to a raid conducted by the military in coordination with the Philippine National Police. That is contrary to earlier reports that the clash was initiated by the militant groups. Rolando Bautista, who is the commanding general of the Philippine Army 1st Infantry Division, stated that they had received reports of impending activity 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time as the combined military and local police team conducted zoning in Marawi to validate such information that suspicious personalities including Omar Maute and Abdullah Maute were secretly roaming around the area of the city of Marawi. Their team instead spotted Isnilon Hapilon. And according to the Philippine military, Hapilon had been appointed as the emir or chief of the ISIS forces in the Philippines, a title which means military commander of the Muslims, and was heard consolidating his group with the Maute and other terrorist groups present in the area. After residents of Marawi reported the presence of the armed group in their locale, soldiers went out to verify and found out that it was true. The military then launched a surgical operation to attack and capture Hapilon. And on the attempt, they found out that the whole city was swarmed with armed men. After the end of the military operations, the AFP was able to corner members of the militant group. One of the persons who tried to escape and was killed was Muhammad Ilham Syaputra, an Indonesian militant who, according to reports, played a vital role in the 2016 Jakarta attacks in Indonesia. Syaputra was caught near Marawi City. That was on the 1st of November. What happened was that they were caught while trying to escape from a district where several Maute fighters had been hiding. Military officials stated on the next day that the militant group engaged in a firefight with the AFP and were killed during the night of November 1. Deputy Commander for Task Force Ranao, Commander Romeo Bronner, stated that Abu Talha, who was Hapilon's trusted aide for years, in addition to an unidentified militant, were also killed in one of the attempts to secure and clear one of the buildings. Despite the aftermath of the Battle of Marawi, terrorist threats in the Philippines still continued. Sporadic fighting continued even after the AFP's declaration of victory, with military troops still battling some militant fighters hiding amid the ruins. The military stated on the 6th of November that 9 more militants were killed in a day-long clashes. Commander Bronner stated that one of them was Ibrahim Maute, alias Abu Hamil, a cousin of the Maute brothers. Philippine National Police Chief Ronald De La Rosa, meanwhile, claimed that Amin Bako was still alive and had become the new emir of the new Muslim commander. Military officials, however, said that they believe Bako had been killed during the clashes on the same day or in recent weeks. Lieutenant General Carlito Galvez said at a separate briefing that Bako and Abdullah, one of Hapilon's sons, could be among the 9 who were killed. 2 more militants were later killed, raising their death toll to 11, according to the military. It was estimated that the number of residents displaced during the crisis was around 200,000. About 70% of displaced residents lived in nearby temporary government shelters as of May 2018. The Battle of Marawi took a heavy toll on infrastructure and private property, particularly in the city area where the battle was concentrated. At one point, over 200,000 of the civilian population evacuated to neighboring cities and towns such as Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, and Lanao del Norte, coastal towns at the start of the hostilities. And by May 2018, around 70% of the Marawi residents had already returned back home. The Battle of Marawi took a heavy toll on infrastructure and private property, particularly in the city area where the battle was concentrated. At one point, over 200,000 of the civilian population evacuated to neighboring cities and towns such as Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, and Lanao del Norte, coastal towns at the start of the hostilities. And by May 2018, around 70% of the Marawi residents had already returned back home. The rehabilitation and restoration of the city officially began on the 18th of October 2017. Rehabilitation is estimated to cost around 53 to 80 billion pesos according to the projections of NEDA and Task Force Bangon Marawi. This has been the Parkland Filipino Hour. I'm Kuya Jobert, leaving you all a message. Filipino ka, ipagsigawan mo, sipag at tiyaga, puhunan mo. God bless.